All right. Cool. Well, I will share this. So with the Dunder Mifflin Rails review, we're going to start this from scratch. And if you guys have like any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. You can leave a comment as well. This is less of a lecture and just more of a code along. So I will clone this down. Cool. And let's open this up. And while we are looking at what we have, I'm going to just do a bundle install. All right, so here is everything that's given to us up front. We have in the app folder, it looks like we have a dog, an employee. So those are our two models. I guess it would help to read the instructions first before we jump right into it. But it says, you're on your way to help the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company with their brand new application. It's meant to showcase each of the employees' pets. We started some work for you and we need some help getting the site fully working. So it says, build out the associations for the models we've created. If you look into the seeds.rb file, you'll notice that we've put in the desired models and expected associations to make the app work. However, we need to change some of the schema to be able to run rakedb seed. And here's kind of like the meat of the whole statement here is saying every employee can be connected to a single dog and a dog can have many owners. So it sounds like we have two models here, right? We have dog and we have employee, and they describe the relationship. What is the relationship? What would you take away from this?
A dog has many employees.
Yeah, a dog. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What was that?
Oh, a dog has many employees. Like Steven said, it's a one to many.
Yeah, it's a one to many. A dog has many employees, and therefore an employee. An employee what?
It's connected to one dog or belongs to one dog.
Yeah, belongs to a single dog. Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we had that in the chat too. Yeah, one to many. Exactly. Cool. So that's pretty simple. So if I go in here, I'll just go in my README and I'll put a little put my notes above. And so we have a dog class, we have an employee class, and then if I have to draw it out, I'm going to say a dog has many employees. So relatively simple model domain here. We can build that out for sure. And if we're looking through, let's see, they give us that and it says, and then it starts talking about the index, but it seems like this is kind of where we can stop right now and continue to work. Because they've done some work for us, but then we need to kind of get this up and running, right? And so we're just starting off. We look here, again, we have a dog model, no relationships described. We have an employee model, no relationships defined, right? But we know enough now that we can define this relationship. So from the dog's point of view, Julian had mentioned a dog has many employees, plural, right? And then an employee belongs to a single dog. And that's it. That's all set up. And then so if we look in our, let's go into the routes just to see, and it looks like they gave us both resources on all employees and dogs, so we don't really have to do anything here. We can limit it and do like an only for now, but I think at this point let's just leave all 7 and we can always come back and refine it if we need to. And then in the DB folder we have a migrate folder, but we don't actually have a schema, so we know our migrations haven't been run. We have a seeds folder too, and it's saying we'll have some trouble if we try to seed it now because we'll need to continue to build out the migration. So if I look, since this migrate folder hasn't been run, we have no schema. I don't actually have to like append these migrations because I can just kind of modify these instructions as is to get me where I need to go, right? And I know that if a dog, going back to the README, if a dog has many employees, which of these two models, whose responsibility is it to hold the other's ID, the other's foreign key?
The employee holds the dog ID.
Perfect. The employee holds the dog ID. So in the employee schema or the employee table, there should be a dog ID column, right? And if we look, we have create employees, but we actually don't have that here. So I can go ahead and add this, right? I can say t.integer dog ID. And I think that's pretty good. So now I can create my table. So I'll run Rails db create. Cool. I can run my migration, Rails db migrate. No errors, nice. And I have my table, my database created and my schema created. And now I can try and seed, run Rails db seed. Awesome, and there's no error, so that's pretty good at this point. Haven't had anything, yeah, perfect, thanks. So quick check before we do anything else is I just want to hop into the Rails console and check, okay, do I have this all set up correctly how I think I do? And do I also have my relationships defined correctly in my model, right? And so if I look at like dog.all, I have access to all of that. If I'm curious of like how many there are, I can run a .count and I see there's 5. I can say employee.all. There's a lot there. I can do the same thing and run employee.count and I have 10. What if we said like dog.first to get the first instance of dog? And if I have my relationships defined correctly in my model, I should be able to call the method employees, right? Because a dog has many employees. And I get its list of employees. And that's kind of hard to read if I wanted to see how many are there. That dog has 2 employees, right? And conversely, I see that one of these employees has an ID of 4. So if I said employee.find and passed in 4, I should get Dwight true, right? Because that's what it's telling me that employee is here, Dwight. And it is indeed Dwight. And knowing that that's Dwight true, I can call .dog and get the single dog instance it belongs to, which is chance, which is not a chance that it's also the first ID of the dog that we have here. Right, because I called dog.first, and that's chance. Any questions at this point? No news is good news with DB seed. Exactly, yeah. No news is definitely good news. Everyone good at where we've come so far? Got an amen and got an exclamation. Okay, cool. Let's move on then. So nice. You'll notice we haven't even jumped into really any Rails stuff right? Yeah, we just made sure our relationships were defined correctly, and we then checked our work here. So now we have the confidence moving forward that we're not building on a faulty foundation, right? And I would make sure when you guys do the code challenge tomorrow, the most important thing you start with is making sure you define the model domain correctly, right? It's probably going to be a many-to-many, and you want to be able to run these in the console after you seed. And if you have to create your own seed file, I would go forward with that step as well and create some instances, but just make sure that you can call from one end to the other and call those methods given to us by the methods or by the relationships we define within the models. So now we can exit this and we can run our server. Rails S, right? And we can actually start doing some Rails stuff now. Moving forward with the confidence that our backend, our database is set up correctly. Cool. So now I should be able to go to localhost 3000 and be on Rails, and we are, and that makes me feel good. What's the first thing it's asking us to do? It says, for our index page for dogs, a user should be able to click on a specific dog and take them to the corresponding show page. Okay, that tells me a few things. That says, first, I need to be able to hit an index page for dogs. So let's just stop there. Let's not worry about the rest of it, right? This piece is all I'm really concerned about. We need an index page for dogs. Now, the first thing I would think of, do we have a route set correctly, right? And we had those resources set up, which should give us all 7, but I could even look and type in Rails routes to see all of my routes here. And indeed, I have a dog route, right? Get dogs, and its controller action is index. So I have that set up, right? I have all 7 of these. I have the RESTful routes for all the dogs, and I have the RESTful routes for all the employees. So my routes are good. So I'm good with the route, so now I can focus on creating my method, my action, and my controller. So I'll go into the dog controller, and I'll define index, def index end. And index, I want to show all of the dogs, right? It's convention with the index page, but it also says so in my instructions. Before I even do that though, let's just write def index, and let's see what happens if I go to /dogs. And it's taking a little while. It says it's waiting for localhost, and then we get this error, right? And it's saying dog controller method index is missing a template. And this is kind of a big keyword here. It's missing a template. When you see this here, when it says missing a template, that usually says, okay, I ran index. I'm following my Rails convention, which is if I'm in an index method in a controller and you don't tell me otherwise, I'm going to try and render an index view in your dogs folder within your views folder, right? And so when I see missing a template, that's kind of a keyword for me to say, oh, you don't have a view created for this. And we actually don't, right? Because if I look at my views, I don't actually even have a dogs folder. I have this layout, which has this stuff here, but I'm not too concerned about that. So this stuff here, if you're curious, this is kind of like the application, that's the title, right? Dunder Mifflin Pet Shop. So that's why it says, if we hit it, it will say like Dunder Mifflin Pet Shop up top, and so on. But anyways, let's go ahead and create my dogs folder. And these are where the dogs views are going to be. And now we want to create an index view, index.html.erb. And now I'm just going to put an H1 that says dogs index and try to refresh the page. Nothing too complicated, but just to confirm. And now we're all hooked up. We're hitting the dogs page. Cool. So we've finished this portion of it. Now we can move on here and saying a user should be able to click on a specific dog and take them to the corresponding page. And this is actually telling me a lot, right? This is saying, okay, you're on the index page. There should be a list. I can kind of read through the lines and say there should be, a list of every single dog name on the dog's page. It's also why it's in the dog's index. So let's start there. Let's just try and display a list of all of the dog's names. And to do so, I need to start in my dog's controller and define a variable for me to be able to get all of the dogs, right? So dogs equals dog.all. Now I can reference my model dog.all and set it equal to the variable @dogs. And if I go into my index view, I can then use the ERB tag and use that @dogs and then iterate over top of that. Each do each of these, if it's an array of dog instances, I'll just call one thing a dog. I'll put my end here. And now I can put a name. I'm just going to put this in a p tag. And I want to list dog.name. Let's see. Sweet. Now we have all the dogs' names here. That looks pretty good. Let's see what comment we have. What was that shortcut for the ERB tag? That's a great question. So I'm using Atom, right? So this package I have here is going to be a little different. There is one in VS Code that will do the same. I'm not as familiar with what it is. I would recommend Googling ERB. What would it be called? Like ERB tag or ERB package Atom, something along that line. ERB autocomplete VS Code, right? Because here I think it's called, it's search in your text editor in your extensions options tab. But this allows me to, I can push Shift Command and period, and we'll bring one up. And I can actually cycle through a few different wonky tags, right? So I have the ERB here, I have the no equal here, and so forth. But that's a little package. Same thing I have, you might have this already, because I know Emmet's pretty hard-grained into VS Code. But if I type in H1 and hit tab, it will make an H1. If I type in nonsense and hit tab, I have an HTML tag autocomplete. So if there's a file name with HTML and I'm typing inside and I hit tab, it will assume that is an HTML tag. Yeah, these can be pretty helpful in terms of time and so forth, and especially if you leave a character off and you're not sure where that mistake is at. So pretty nice to use. That could be a great blog post for someone too, is like just writing about helpful VS Code packages. I know a lot of students probably find that helpful. But nice. So we're here. We have these dogs' names. If I go back here, it's saying, okay, so we have all the dogs' names, but right now we can't click on it, right? We want to allow for each student to be able to click, not student, but a user should be able to click on a dog name and then take them to that corresponding dog's show page. So we have the name. Now, if I want to make this clickable, this link, right, I could use like something like an A tag and handwrite it out in HTML, but Rails offers a lot easier way to do this, right? I can use a link to tag. And link to is just, like it says it is, link to, and it takes two arguments, right? The first argument is the text you want displayed, and then the second argument is the path. Pretty simple, right? And we know the text we want to display is the dog name, right? This here. And so I can make this link to, dog name can be the first argument. I don't have to put these parentheses around here, but I'll need the comma, and then the path here. And now I can hard code it and be like string interpolation and say something like /dogs/ dog.id. I could do this, right? Let's see if that works. So if I hover over, I see dogs 1 on the bottom, right? And if I even click it, it changes. Like, this does work. Dogs 2. But there's an easier way. I don't have to use string interpolation here. I can actually use the path helper created. Dog path, and just pass in dog here, right? We have this path helper. If I go back to my routes here, and I'm in show, you see this prefix, all this stuff in the left-hand column. These are the path helpers, and saying if I type dogs, like dogs, and put underscore path in front of it, it will print this out. It will be the same as this URL. If I say dog underscore path and then pass an ID, it will be whatever this is here. If I say new dog underscore path, it will be dog/new, right? And I can even try this out. If I go into the console, I can call this on app.dogs underscore path, and it gives me the URL that will be returned from that, right? These are just methods you can call. Same thing with dog path, and these are set up through my routes. And resources kind of does this behind the scenes. If you create your own custom routes, you'll then have to add the as tag to allow for this functionality as well. So here, I can say, like, if I say like dog path and pass in 5, I get /dog/5. If I pass in, I think, garbage, oh, that's going to error out. I think I need to do integers, right? I get dog/ that large number. I can then also call, let's see what else we have here. We have edit dog, and it takes an argument, right? Because this is a variable, this colon. So I can call app.edit underscore dog, and then just put underscore path in front of it and pass in a number, and I get /dog/4/edit. So these are really useful when you want to link things, right? Because they can kind of build this for you. This is a path builder. And the one I want here is the show page, right? Here's the show. And so it's dog. So app.dog, and then again I just put underscore path. And because this one has the colon, the variable here, I have to pass it a value. I'm not sure what I just did down here. So pass it a value, and let's say I'll just say 3. And yeah, that's kind of what I want it to look like. So we'll use that link helper here, that path helper. So dog underscore path, and I can say dog.id and just pass, calling this dog here. But Rails also knows I can just pass it an instance, and it knows to call the ID on it as well. So I can actually just do this. And even more, I honestly think, no, I can't do. I gotta leave that on there.
I think you can do just dog. I think it knows. I think.
Just dog here?
Yeah.
We can try it.
Yeah.
Let's see what we get. Oh, it does. Yeah, it is smart enough to know there. Okay, I do like to be a little more explicit because there's some times, well, I'll show you once we get to the show page, I'll show you, but it can really mess you up because it was messing me up earlier. So I do like to be explicit here and just do like dog underscore path and pass in dog, and it still works the same. But yeah, thanks for that, Julianne. But yeah, I would advise against that, not because I think it's wrong, but because you can't follow that same convention throughout all of your views because you'll end up unintentionally hurting yourself in some ways, where it looks like you're doing the right thing, but then you realize, oh no, it's giving me the wrong output. We'll pick back up in a show page. Cool. So now if I click here, I get this next error. The action show could not be found for the dog's controller. And this is telling me, okay, I'm trying to go to dog/1. You have the route for a show page, so I should be able to go into my controller for dogs and hit the show method, but you don't have a show method set up, right? So let's go and set that up. Def show, and let's just put nothing in there for right now and refresh the page, and now we get a different error, right? And we have that template word pop up. Cool. So this is telling us, hey, I found the show page, I'm following Rails convention, which implicitly will then hit my show and then try and render a show view in the dogs folder of the views folder, which are a lot of words saying you don't have anything called show inside your dogs view folder. So we'll go create that show.erb html.erb, and then we'll just start off and say again dog show. Sweet. So now we're all hooked up. Now the point of the dog show page, I imagine, is to show some information about that particular dog, but I think it tells us, and if we look here, I think we've done all of this, right? Like we can cross it off the list. Now we're down here, the dog show page, and it tells us it should have their name, breed, age, and a list of Dunder Mifflin employees they are connected to. All right, I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to go back and forth, and I'm going to paste it down below here. So that's all the stuff they want: name, breed, age. All right, well, let's just focus on the name. If I have the name, I have to find that dog somehow that I'm operating on, right? Let me take that away for a second. So let's go to the dogs controller and just put a by bug. Let's see what's available to us when we hit that show. So if I go back and I go to my dogs and I click a dog, I hit my by bug, which is why I haven't done anything. I haven't moved forward, and I can go and look at my terminal and see that I'm here. Now that I'm in my terminal, I'm going to just see what are params, right? And I have my params here, and this is the printout. I have controller, dogs, action show. Oh, I have this, I think, ID of 2. And the question is, where's that coming from? Well, the params here are coming from the URL, right? It took us to /2. And this thing we call an ID, by convention is called an ID in our Rails routes, right? When it's set up, ID. If I name this carrot, it will say carrot is 2, but we have it called ID here. And so when I call my params, I have that ID coming through to me, available in my show method as ID2 of the params hash, right? So I have my params hash, and I can access it that way too. And that's all the information I need to search through all of my dogs and pull that dog instance out that I'm talking about. So I'll go back to my show, and I'll set a variable at dog equal to dog.find using params ID2 to pass in at dog's ID. Sweet. So now we can go in our show and we can look at what is that dog, right? And I can just try this out, and like maybe I'll do a p tag. Let's say p, and just say like at dog.name to display the name of this dog. And I'll click. I had that by bug. Let me take that out. For by bug, you type continue to move forward. I think I did it twice, so I have to do it out twice. And then I'm going to take that by bug out of here. I did that. Okay, cool. But now I see I do have the dog's name, so that works. Awesome. Well, let's go back to their show. I took that away. Okay, I'm going to copy in the requirements again. I lost it off my clipboard. And I'm going to use this to build all the information. So we have the dog show as an H2, but let's just change this to, like, say the dog's name, right? And if I wanted to get the dog's name, Basically, I'm going to have it, I want it to be, here we go. I want to say like dog name here's page, right? And I can be explicit and just say dog page, right? And I want to replace this with the actual dog name. So I can put a tag in here and then just use @dog.name, right? So now if I look at it, I get like Lucy's dog page, and that looks pretty good. All right, but we don't want just the name. We want their name, their breed. So let's go down and let's maybe do like some H. Let's put a break tag in and do like some H3s. That's a B3. And we can say breed is this, and just do @dog.breed, and then copy this and do the same for age and employees. So breed here, age, dog.age, employees, and here the employees, I don't think, because there's gonna be multiple, right? Let's take this out for right now, just to see how things are looking. Cool. So we get breed, age, and now let's do that. The employees. That's kind of, there's gonna be a number of them. So let's do like a list. So we can do employees and just leave it at that. And inside of here we can do a UL. And inside of here we can iterate over the employees, and for each one put it in an LI, right? So that would be dog.employees, using that active record method we get from establishing our relationships in our models, right? Be able to call employees on there. .each, do. Each of these is going to be an employee, right? Employee instance. I'll put my end in here. And yeah, we want to. They have a first name. They have a last name. They don't like have a full name. So we can put there. We can do an li. And in here, and you'll notice how like I tend to sandwich stuff because it makes it a lot easier for me to read and then do your spacing rather than have it all one long line, because it can get very confusing very quickly. So I would recommend that as well too, to kind of spread this out so it looks like actual HTML as you continue to write it, and you can see which is nested inside of which. But for each of these, we'll do @dog dot, or sorry, this is employee, @employee dot first name, right? And then we can put a space and then do @employee dot last name. Let's see how that looks. I have undefined local method dog. Yes, because I don't have the @ symbol. Thank you. And now we get undefined method first name, because on this I do have the @ symbol. So thank you, Rails, for watching out for me and telling me what I'm doing wrong, and I'm sure this would probably give me an error too. Okay. Sweet. Now we have their whole name, right? That looks pretty good. This is probably a good time to talk about like when it makes sense to build your own methods, right? Because I have this employee.first name, employee.last name. That's kind of a lot when I just want the name. It's, you know, it's fine how it is, but honestly, I tend to be like a little more anal and organized than most people, and this bothers me a bit. So I want to create a method that combines the first name and the last name into like a full name. Yeah, and the question I was going to ask is, where would be the appropriate place to build that? And that would be the model. Yeah, good call. And the reason we do it's in the model is because when you think of the relationship between a model, the controller, and the view, it's very similar to a relationship in a restaurant between the chef, the waiter, and the customer, right? The chef is the model, the waiter is the controller, and the customer is the view. The customer, like, it's more or less like their dining table with the menu and the food that gets presented to it, but that's like the view. And whenever and you can think of the database as kind of being the refrigerator where all the ingredients live, right? So you never have the model, you never have the waiter go into the fridge and grab all the ingredients for the chef, or grab all the ingredients and make the dish, right? It's always the chef that grabs the ingredients, makes this little dish, presents it to the waiter who runs it out to the customer. And this is very similar here. If the database is the refrigerator with all the ingredients in there, whenever we want to pull some of that out and do something with it, pull some information from there and do something with it, right? Make this dish, which is full name, that's going to be the chef or the model that does that. So I'll go and inside of the model of the dog, or excuse me, of the employee, I can make my own thing called, and I'll just call it full name, my own method here. And all this is going to return is, I can use string interpolation, for 2 quotes for string interpolation, 1 quote won't work. And I can say self.firstname and self.lastname. That's what I wanted to return with this actual space in here, right? Because it's a string literal. So this is going to just be like Jim space helper. And again, because I am it's an instance method, so I actually don't even have to explicitly say self here. There's an implicit self being called, so it's just first name, last name. And now I have this full name method I can call on an instance of dog, or excuse me, an instance of employee. So if I go back, I did that in my model, so now if I go back into my view, I can call that here. Instead of first name, I can just call full name, and I can take this other piece off. And it still looks the same. Sweet. Cool. Let's go back here and say are connected. So I think we did this, right? The employees that are connected to. Let's just do that. It hasn't told us yet, but I think it would be neat if we click a name here. Well, maybe we go back and we do that later.
I got a question.
Yeah, question?
It's a simple question. What's the shortcut key to refresh? Just so I can...
Oh, no, that's a great question. If you push Command R.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Good question. Yeah, if you ever have a question on shortcuts, they're very helpful. There's a lot of them, so like, it's not something you just memorize them all in one day. You just kind of get used to them. But if you have a question what I'm doing, by all means, let me know. Because one you'll see me use a lot is Command D, right? That can be very helpful for, you'll see in a few seconds here if I like want to copy something over. Cool. Well, let's do what I said. Let's link this to, if I click here, let's see if it will take me to the employee show page. So we'll kind of skip ahead because I'm kind of reading the tea leaves and see what we're eventually going to be doing. But I'll just do a link to, and the first argument's already done, right? Because it's just this name. And now I have to provide the path. And what path builder do I have available to me now? Oh yeah, thanks Sam. Employee path, right? So here's something I want to show you that I mentioned earlier. So I can leave it as employee path here. Let's see what happens. Let's refresh. And if I look here, what will Kelly Kapoor take me to? And I'll just look and inspect it. So if I look down at where these will take me, I'll click here. I don't have an employees to, right? But it takes me to employees/2. So it seems like it's working. And I feel pretty confident, right? But if I look, this href is going to take me to employees/2. It says, and that's on the name Jim Halpert. What about the name Kelly Kapoor? Where does that take me to?
Employees/2?
The same thing, right? Which is weird because even though this makes me feel good, and let's build an employee show page out. So I would want to create a folder for employees, and then I can build a show page in here, HTML, and I'll say show page, and did not want to make a poll. Let's go, and then I would go to the controller of employees and create a show method. Same stuff we just did for the dog, so I'm kind of going quick through it. And I know I want to do the @employee equals employee.find params ID. So now we have this @employee. And in the show page of employee, I'm just going to say p at employee dot full name. So let's try this. Interesting, Michael Scott. Let's go back to dogs. I'm going to go to Kelly Kapoor. It takes me to Michael Scott. I'm going to go to Jim Helper. It takes me to Michael Scott. That's really weird, right? And it would be even more misleading if one of these things were Michael Scott and I clicked it and it took me to Michael Scott. It would be purely coincidence, but I would feel like I'm doing everything right. And so what's happening here? Well, when I look at my page, it's just how Michael Scott would like the site to run. Exactly. That's a typical Michael Scott move. He'd be done. He'd be kicking his feet up and drinking a beer at this point. Probably smoking a huge, cheap cigar. But if I look at my show page, I'm saying employee underscore path, right? And I don't pass in an ID. And so what it's doing, Rails is trying to assist me along and say, okay, you haven't given me enough, but I think I have enough information on this page to be able to complete this myself. And what it does is it looks at what is this page? Where does it belong? Like what is this page about? I'm going to pass the instance that I've been provided, this @dog, in as an argument. So it's no coincidence that this dog is dog/2, and when I click here, the employee is employee/2. The same thing for Kelly Kapoor, because it thinks that I want to pass in the dog instance of 2, the dog ID of 2, into that helper. So do you see where this can kind of create some trouble in that, like, you think it's fine, it seems to work, but it's actually not doing what you think it does? And for that reason, that's why I like to be very explicit with this and not leave it up to that chance and say, okay, employee path, and the instance I want to pass in isn't @dog that Rails is passing in for me. I want to pass in employee, right? And so now when I click these things, I'm truly at Jim's page /1, and I'm truly at Kelly's page /8. Cool? All right. Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. So the dog show page, so we did this, and then we kind of jumped ahead. Let's go back to our little navigational map here. It says, for the index page of employees. Okay, so let's stop there, because we know we want to build the index page then. That's all I care about. Very short-sighted in my mind. Only want to get to the index page. So first, I'm going to create a page, index.html.erb inside of the employees folder, and I'll just say employee index to give myself some indication I've hit the right spot. I know my route's good, right? Because I've already at the very beginning of this project said I have all 7 routes. I confirmed it with Rails routes because these resources provide me with all 7. So I feel confident there. Plus I've confirmed it in the terminal using Rails routes. So the next thing would be to go to the employees controller and define my index method. And again, I want to have a variable set that I can use that gives me all of the employees. Very similar to dogs, right? Dog.all. And it's just very much a pattern. Employee.all. So now I have @employee, and I'm in the index, and I went a little ahead with the index method, but let's just see if we're hitting the right thing. So I should be able to go to /employees, and I hit the employee page. But now I think I want to list all of the employees' names, right? And so this is very similar to the dog.all thing. And I can even look here for reference and say, okay, I had this dogs.each. What if I just copy this? This is some areas where copy and pasting can be helpful because we've already done it. And I'm just going to highlight dog, right? And use that Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D, and type employee. And I'm done. I think I'm done. We'll see. I actually think I broke my code, but we'll see. I did break my code, right? Because it's saying I had this undefined method each for employees. I might have called it singular. Let me check here. I did. I want to change this to an S. But I think I also will have an issue with this thing called .name, right? I don't know what .name is on an employee because I don't have .name. I have .first name, .last name, and that method I created called .fullname. So I can go and modify this index and have .fullname. And it works now. Cool. And we've already created the show page, and so all of these work as intended. Any questions? All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next ask here. And it's saying a user should be able to click on a specific employee. We did that. The employee show page should list all of their attributes, and as a bonus, try to get their picture to show up. Okay, that's doable. I think there's a lot more attributes for employees, so I'm just going to go here and I'm going to copy all this. So let's go to the employee show page and just paste this down here. And I like to follow the same syntax of what I did, so I used H3s. I'm just going to use H3s for here as well too. So I have, I don't want to say show page, I'll just say this person's name again in an this isn't a high tag, that doesn't exist. The downside with these autocompletes, right, it doesn't matter if it's an actual HRB tag or HTML tag or not. So I'll say at employee dot full name. We'll just cut this out of here. I cut it all out. Sometimes copy paste is your friend, sometimes it's not. Page. Cool. And let's just focus on getting, let's just try to do the image, right? Because I want to have the image show up right before the name. So I can use an image tag for that, img, right? And this one recognizes that's HTML, so it says, okay, what's the source? And the source is provided, I believe it's image underscore URL. Let's bring that back here, put that back on my clipboard, go forward, undo, paste. Okay. So it's called image URL, right? That's an attribute, that's just a string. So I can say at employee, if I use at employee dot image dot URL, and then let's just say like employee picture for anyone that's using like a screen reader or something. Cool. Now let's take this off of here so it will run and see if we get the image to show up. Hey, look at it, it's Jim. If I click the Michael Scott looks good. Dwight, it's getting kind of big. Daryl, it's a lot bigger. Okay, so it looks like I have these images. There's some inconsistency because all the pictures are different sizes. Again, I think it's fine if you want to leave it, but for me, I like to just have consistency throughout. And I might look and say like, how to start your own pickle business. Yeah, that's hilarious. How to size image tag. I actually did Google it a while ago. It wasn't because I'm truly interested in starting my own pickle business, but I just started reading over the weekend about like small town pickle stores. No, I love pickles. And so I was like, I wonder if there's some great ones around me. And then I was like, I wonder how hard that is to start a pickle business. Next time I'll clear out my history. But yeah, I can see here, and I see there's these attributes width and height that I can add to an image tag. How to tutor code? How to teach students? Yeah, so I can use these. Thanks. I can use these width and height attributes to assign the sizes for this. So I'll just say height equals, let's just say 200, and width I'll say equals 300. So they're probably going to be, some might be a little distorted, but they'll all be the same size. That's interesting. It's interesting the ones I clicked on previously. would quickly flash from big to small. And I wonder if it's because it's already loaded. That image was already loaded, like downloaded to the browser, and it was trying to use that, and it quickly corrects, right? So like, I haven't clicked Oscar, so it should just be this picture. But if I click Daryl, I imagine you might not be able to see it in your screen because I don't know if the lag, but oh, it didn't go big and small. I don't know. I don't know. That's just a hypothesis I have. I just noticed that it was interesting. But yeah, these are all the same size now, and they're at a pretty good size. I mean, some of them look a little odd, like Oscar. That's just an odd picture though. And Daryl, I don't know why they have so much paper. This is like a photo op or something. But now I have these pictures, right? So I did the image. Let's go back here and what was left? Image, office, alias, I think, and I had these in H3s. So I'm gonna put a break in between the picture, and let's just say H3, name, alias, you can use at employee.alias, and then we'll copy this over for, I believe it was one for title, one for office, title, office, let's see what else we had here. Title, office. Oh, we have the whole name, so I don't have to worry about those two. Have the image, the dogs, or the dog, right? So let's do dog. Let's go back to the show. And then they only have one. And I can use, again, I can call .dog, not because we have it in the schema, but because through my model associations, that belongs to allows me to call the method .dog on an employee. And I can, this will list the whole dog instance, but I can call dog.name on that dog because name, the dog has a name attribute, a name method on it. So let's refresh, click Jim, and now we see Jim's page, Big Tuna, Regional Co-Manager, Scranton, and Lucy. And again, this feels like I want to click it, right? So I'm going to actually turn this into a link to. And the name is the first argument because that's what the text I want. And then I can send it to dog_path and pass in employee.dog, right? To get that dog's ID. So now if I look, Lucy. And if I look at Lucy, I can go back to Jim. I kind of have these things now. I don't have to keep doing this stuff myself, right? It would be cool, though, now that I'm here. What if, like, we're on Lucy's show page. What if I had a button that said, like, back to all dogs? I'm going to go ahead and put that in the dog show page. I don't know if this is required of us, but I think it makes it pretty navigational to the user. So I'm just going to put a link to. I love link tos because they're very easy and simple. And say, back to all dogs. Yeah, nice, Sam. And then I can just do dogs path, use that Rails path builder, dogs path. And the thing with actually dogs path, that's all that is, right? We don't actually need an instance because if I look at the index for dogs, it's just /dogs. There's no ID, there's no variable, so I don't have to pass anything in. And if I look at the prefix, it's just dogs_path, right? And I can even try it out and say app.dogs, plural, right? Path, and I get /dogs is where I want to go. So that's all that is there. And now if I refresh, now I have this back to all dogs. And that feels pretty good, right? Getting some good navigation here. And it makes sense if I do it for dogs. Let's do this for the employees as well. So I'll just copy this. Be lazy. Laziness is recommended sometimes. And then this would just be employees. And employees path. Now I refresh here, and I can go back to all the employees. Cool. So now I can actually, without even changing the URL, I'm changing it, but without typing it in manually, I can get to the dogs page. I can go back to all dogs. I can get to the employees page, back to all employees. That feels pretty good. Yeah, it's good directional, and I could even do something like I could do on the employees page, like click to see dogs, right? So I don't have to like go into a dog. I don't have to go into a show page to click on a dog to go back to dogs. I can, in the dogs index page, I can just copy this, and this will take me to all employees. And so if I go to the dogs index, I'll put a BR here and paste and say, click for all employees. And then I can do the same and paste this one in the employees index page and say, click for all dogs. Right? And now I'm on the dogs page, but I have a way to get to all the employees. And I'm on the employees page, but I have a way to get to all the dogs. And then if I click here, I have a way back to all the employees. Click all the dogs, and I click here, I have a way back to all the dogs. Cool? Yeah, it definitely makes it easier for the user. It makes it easier for me now as well. I can just quickly move around the page. All right, but we're kind of getting outside the scope of what they're asking. So let's go back to the deliverables. So it says here, employees should click on a specific employee, take to that show page. We have that done. The employee show page should list all the attributes and the bonus picture. I think we have that. Awesome. And now we have this thing, as a user, I should be able to create and edit an employee. Interesting. All right. Well, let's start with the create aspect first. Create. That's going to be what two methods will allow me to create an employee. New and create. Yeah, they're tied together. New to get the form, and then create to post it, right, to the back end. So first, I'm going to start with the new. Just try to get to the new page, and I know I need an employee's new here. New.html, because we need to have something to load to show the form. And this, I'm just going to do an H1. It says new employee. And then I know I have a route set up for already because my resources, again, gave me all 7. And I can even check my route. And do I have a new? I do. It's right here. So I have this route set up. So I can go define that method in employee. Def new end. All right. Now let's just see if we hit the new. Let's try it. So we're in dogs. Let's go to employees. I have to manually do this /new. Okay, it took me there. Pretty cool. Let's just make it easy though. Let's have another button down here that says click to create a new employee. So I'll go back to my index of employees. I'll copy this, paste it below. Let's put another BR tag. Click to create a new employee. And I can use my helper here, right? What is my helper to take me to the new page? Well, let's look in the Rails routes. It's new_dog, and then I tack on an underscore path. And because there's no ID or anything, I don't need to pass it any argument. So I can say new, sorry, I know I said dog, employee. I went the wrong new right here. New employee, so new_employee_path. New_employee_path. Right? And if I look and I refresh, did I save? I did not save. And then I'll refresh. I have this button. Move up my break tag. For some reason it didn't put a space there. Oh well. But if I hover over, I can see down in the bottom left, it takes me to /employees/new. If I click it, we're all good. So now I have this, I want to load in the form, right? And to do so, I can use a form for form builder. And a form for form builder requires what? Let's go into our new, and let's say form for, it requires an instance, right? At employee, but I don't have anything for that yet. So I'm just going to put the baseline of this up, and okay, and I can create that in my employees controller, and I can say at employee equals, and just set it to employee.new, right? Create a new instance just like that. And now I have my form builder. So let's see, let's go back to new, and they need a few things, right? We need an alias, and I can use the f dot, and I can use a label. I can write my own HTML label, but I can just write one with the label builder as well, right? F.label. This form builder is it's an enumerable. It's like an each basically that does this thing for all of this. And I can list what is this label for, and we'll just do first name, right? Because these need to match the attributes in the schema. And let's pull these out again and use these as a template. And then I can say f.text is a text field. I think it's text field for this one, or just a small input. And it would be the same thing, right? First name. And the one thing all forms will have, I'll have a f.submit, right? And if I wanted to see how I'm doing so far, let me move that away and refresh. And again, I had that one label. And the cool thing is, I inspect this. So what that label did is it built an input, it built a label with a for equals employee's first name, and it built the input has ID equals employee first name. So that means if I click here on first name, it will autofocus here in the box, which is pretty sweet, right? Before, if I was doing this manually with inputs and labels, I would have to have a for attribute set equal to the same thing, the ID attribute of the input, corresponding input I wanted to connect it to. But with the form builder, it will do that automatically if you just name this the same thing, first name and first name. Can we use the model method of full name on form name? Good question. Yes, we could, I believe. I think the only issue is we'd have to break that up on the back end. Yeah, I think we'd have to break that up on the back end when the params came through to assign it. So I think that's kind of an area where it's more trouble than it's worth. I would actually just follow this here. So we have the first name. So let's do the same for the last name. You know what? I can just even do this. Work smarter, not harder. And then we can do the same for the alias. And then we can do the same for the office. If you're wondering again what command I'm doing to highlight one and go down the next, it's Command D. And then image URL. And then we have this dog thing we'll have to figure out in a second. But let's just look at this now. Let's see how we're looking. That looks pretty good. And I looked at it, says create employee. My f.submit knows that because the form builder knows that if you're in the employee views and you have a form 4 and it's a new file, then it's going to automatically assume you want create employee. I can put my own thing in there if I want, but create employee sounds good. I'm going to put a few BR tags in to maybe break it off after alias. So office is by itself, and I want the button by itself. Let's see how that looks now. All right, that's fine. Maybe I do one more BR, get a little more space. Okay, so that's looking okay. Now I need to do this dog thing, and it says for the dogs, it wants a drop down, right? Like I want the user to only select one dog from a list of already existing dogs. And I think there's a good HTML option here would be a drop down, a select, right, with different options. So a drop down where you get to choose each dog name. Exactly, it's collection select time. So I can do a collection select, and if I just list it like this, collection _ select, then a normal collection select will take 5 arguments, right? The first is the model, so like @employee. The next is the thing we want to call. So the next is what we want the key to be called, right? Which is dog _ID. The next is the group that you want to iterate over. So all the dogs, right? So dog.all, which I will move in a second. I know right now it's like saying dog.all is me as a customer going to the freezer and taking out my own food. And then the next thing is what do you want the user to see, and that's going to be the name of the dog. And the next thing is, no, what do you want the value to be? And the next is what do you want the user to see? I might have these backwards, but let's just try this. I ran through them for a purpose. We'll inspect them one by one. So if I look, sweet, Chance, Lucy, like I have this built, right? I have all 5 methods. Now, what does each one do? Because I quickly ran through it. Well, the first thing is at employee. If I look at this form, I'll see that this is called, I have this name of the input. Its name, which again is the value that goes in the through params, what we want to call the key for params. And we're calling this employee, and then inside of employee, so employee itself, the key employee, its value will be a hash, and we're creating another key inside of that hash called first name. So that's what that first aspect is, right? It's basically, what do you want to call this outer thing? Employee, right? Employee, employee. If I change this to dog, if it will let me, I don't know if it will, let me refresh. It does. Did I save? It might be overriding it, actually. Label, yeah, it might be. I'll put employee back. And then, so the next thing though is this dog ID is, what do you want? Oh, I'm sorry, I changed it below in the select. That's why I wasn't seeing it. So I'll put this back to dog. So if I look here now and I refresh, and I look at this select, name is dog ID. So actually, it's not even going through. That's not an issue. Let's put this back in employee. Okay. So at dog, I didn't know what to do with it. Now that I did employee, I did the instance, and so it has a weird funky instance, which is what you don't want. You actually want to put the symbol here. Let's refresh this now and see how it changed it. And now you can see it's at employee dog ID. So basically that first argument is saying, what hash do you want? What's the outer key that you want this to be in params? And if you want it to be in the same hash as all the other stuff that's added through, then you would use employee, right? And the inner thing, this dog ID, is what do you want to call the inner key of that hash? So if I said like pumpkin, it might error because there's not a pumpkin attribute, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't have a pumpkin attribute. Let's just say name. Let's say, oh, it has to be one of the ones, the first name of it has to be something matching an employee. Right now it works, but if I look now, it says employee first name. So it's going to be, the value is going to come through as the value of the key first name inside of the hash called employee inside of a hash called params. It's kind of a lot. But that's what that second thing's doing here. We want this to come through as dog ID because that's what we're selecting. This third thing is the collection of things you iterate over, right? So if I said employee.all instead of dog.all, and I refresh the page, there is no name here, so that's why it's giving me here. I would have to change this to first name. And I refresh, now you can see I don't have the dogs, I'm actually iterating over all the employees. So that's what this argument here is doing, which is the third thing. Let's change it back to dog. Let's change this back to name. This fourth thing is, what is the value of what you want to come through in the params hash? So if I look at the select, its value is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the IDs of those dogs, right? These are their names, and these are their IDs. So when I select one of these, I don't actually send the name Lucy through to the back end. I send the value through. So Lucy's value is 2. So I send the integer 2 back. I can change that, right? If I say instead of ID, I want name to be sent. Now, if I look at the value, if I select Lucy, the name, it would send Lucy the value through. Okay? So I want this to be ID though, because it's easier to find the things with an ID. And if I had 2 dogs named Lucy, I would never be able to find the second dog, because it would always stop the find method if I did a search when it hit the first Lucy. So you want to send the ID through, and the last thing is name. So, and this is what you want the user to see. So if I said instead of name, and I said ID, right? You would get 1, 2, 3, 4. What else do dogs have? Dogs have ID, breed. So like if I said like breed here instead, they would see the dog's breed. So it's what the user gets to see when they select. But I want the name here. So that's what all these things do in the collection select. It's a whole form. Now the one thing is, okay, I've seen it with 4 though. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why is that? Well, the reason for that is I'm just calling collection select. But I had this form that I'm building it as, and so if I list it as f.collection select, right, use it as part of this form, then it automatically links to this form, and it knows my first argument implicitly is going to be employee. So I actually can remove this very first argument and just have the 4 things here, and it works the same way. And if we look down here, we can see it automatically knows it's for an employee, and it adds an employee here. Cool? So that might be a piece of confusion of like, I've seen this with 4 arguments, I've seen it with 5. Why is that? Well, if you're inside the form 4 and you don't just list collection select, but call f.collection select, right? Call it on f, which is what we named the block variable here. That's why it allows you to only have 4. Cool, so now we have everything here on this end. So when I hit submit, what's it going to hit? Well, let's look at the form. It will hit action. It's a post to @employees, and that a post to @employees, right? Post @employees. What is that? That's a create method, right? So it's going to hit our create method. So we have to go forth and create. Using the same words here, but yeah, we have to create the create method. Getting meta. So we'll go into the employee controller, and now we can define our create method. And let's do nothing more than just put a buy bug in here. So now I can go through, I can refresh the page. Let's add, let's say Mose, I'm sorry. And I don't know his alias, I'm just calling him Mose. He's on the farm. Let's find a picture of him. Mose. Oh, that's a map. I want an image. Damn you, Google. There he is. Copy the image address. Let's paste that in. And let's have Mose have chance as a dog. We hit this, we hit the binding.pry, so it's going to say waiting for localhost. We go to our terminal, and now we can look at params, right? And it's huge, a lot of shit. But I can look in here, and one of these things is the image URL is what's so big here. But if I want to look at params, right, employee, because I sent all of my stuff in as under employee, the employee key and params. I have all of that, right? It's hard to see, but I have params employee first name, Mose, right? Same thing with last name, all of that. I have all the information, and I think the dog ID is just going to be an integer, right? Dog ID. So I have all that information to create an employee. So now we can talk about how do I do that? Well, let's talk about strong params. So I can create my private statement, and the reason you have strong params, again, quick review, is this way I can't on the front end add another key value pair in here that's like malicious and send it through and maybe create an employee with for this it doesn't really matter, but let's say this is like a bank, right? And I have like starting balance, like I have balance, and like if I create a new count, maybe my balance is just going to be nil or be 0. But what if when I create a new count, I also send forth an attribute that says balance and says $1 million? Well, if they're just using everything that's in the params hash to create a new user, that will go through, provided they don't have any extra protection, and that's going to start me off with $1 million. So to protect against that, you can create strong params, and this is where you get to dictate which params you allow through to create a new employee, right? And the convention with strong params is you name it whatever model you're in, so employee underscore params. And we start off with saying params, right? We identify the hash that comes through. It's called params. So we take params first, and we call a method called require. and that's saying in the params hash, I will reject everything that does not have a key called employee. So we're requiring that there's a key called employee, which we set from our form. And we're saying then on that, we're calling permit and saying within that employee key, right? So that value of employee, that's going to have a hash. We will permit the following key values to come through. We will permit first name. We will permit last name. And I get to write what I want these to be. I'm going to write down everything required to create an employee. Alias, office, what else do we have? Office, dog ID, image, image URL. Is that everything? 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's look at the form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Okay. So now we have this here. Is there a way to permit them all? Yeah, I mean, this is us this is defining what we want to permit, right? This is the way to permit them all is just to list them. Yep. So now we've listed them all, right? And so now I have this thing called employee params. And let's see what happens if, let's leave it like this, right? And let's continue through here. And let's go back to employees/new and Mo's, office, farm, image URL, and chance, and create employee. We hit that, finding that pry, and I had params again, but now I had this thing called employee params. It's a method I defined, right? Employee params, and I can call that too. And that gives me everything I list there. That is all the information, all the key value pairs to create something. Now, what happens here if let's remove the image URL, so I don't permit that through. I'll say continue here. I'll go back here, I'll refresh, and I'll create one again. Now, here, when I call employee params, do you notice anything that's missing?
The URL is not there.
The URL is not there, right? Because I said I'm only going to permit things called first name, last name, alias, and office, and dog ID. And so it looked at the params coming through. And again, the params, if I just call params, that has the URL in it, right? But in my strong params, which I'll use to create an instance, I didn't list the image URL as something I'm permitting, so it did not, it's filtered that out when it created my strong params, when it created the return value, right? So if I were to do a user.create and pass in my strong params, which is, again, a hash of key value pairs, I would create Moses without an image, I believe, right? And I can even do employee, I can just do it from the terminal, dot create employee params. It created. So now if let's continue out of here. So I actually I persisted something in my database. And if I go back to all employees, and I go to Mo's, I have Mo's, but he has no image, right? Because I used strong params to create it, and I did not allow the image to come through strong params. So he actually doesn't have an image. Cool? So let's add image back here in what we're allowing. Bring it back, and then we can do that thing I just actually did, right? We can say employee equals employee.create employee params. So we don't individually call out the things from params, the params hash, but we use this employee params that will allow us to create them, just like that. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay, and then we're going to keep it simple right now in the create. We might touch up on it in a little bit. So now I can do then what do I want to do after create it? Well, I want to redirect it to that newly created employees page. So I can use a redirect to, and again, I can use a Rails path helper here pass this through. And I want to redirect it to employee path, and then pass in the instance of the employee I want for that ID, which is this variable that I set to that newly created thing. Sweet. So let's go through. Let's go try and create one now. So employees. What employee should we create? Who's not on here yet? Do we have what's his face? Chili guy. Can't think of him. Kevin. I don't know what Kevin's last name is. Anyone know offhand? Malone. Alias. I'm just gonna call him Chili Man. Office. Scranton. Was Kevin Malone? I like that image. Was he already on this? He might be. We'll have two of them if he is. And Honey seems like his. Nice. So now we have. We don't have title in there. Interesting. Did I not put title through? Oh, I might not have filled it out. I'm gonna go back. I don't have title as anything here. Okay. Let's go through our form and add title. And that means if we do that, we have to allow title. I don't know if we already have it in our strong params. No, so I will add title here too. And that will allow it to come through, so then when the return value of this method that I'm defining here will now include a title if I fill it out. So let's go and refresh. Now we have title. Cool. So then we can create a new one that way. So that seems to be good. Now, what was the other part of it? It was update, right? We should be able to edit someone we've created, which is good because if I go to all my employees, I have Kevin, but like Mose doesn't have a picture, right? And Kevin doesn't have a title. So maybe I can make an edit feature that I can then correct these there. So that was kind of a happy little mistake. So where would I want to, in my views, where would it make sense to put an edit button?
On the show page.
Yeah, in the show page. I agree with that. So let's go to the show page. In employee show, so we have link back to all employees. But what if I do one? I'm just going to copy this and say edit this employee. And what would be the path for edit? Let's look for employees. Here's employees. Oh, okay. Employee edit underscore employee underscore path. And because I have this variable ID here, I have to pass in a variable. So edit underscore employee underscore path. And then I pass in the variable of the employee, which is at employee. So let's see. Michael Scott's page, edit employee. Could not find edit action. That's good news, right? Because we have the route set up. I'm going to put a BR in here. We had the route set up, so that just means I don't have an edit method in our employee's controller. So I'll go and do my edit next, def edit. And edit, I first want to be able to find, all I have in the edit, when I go to edit here, I have this params2, right? So first I want to find the employee with that and set it to a variable here. And that will give me an at employee. So if I'm at /2 and that's Michael Scott, when I hit my edit page, I know I'm dealing with Michael Scott. And I have an at employee set to Michael Scott with all his information. So this is pretty nice where now I can go through and I can create, like I have a new file, I can create an edit page. And I'm just going to be very lazy and copy everything from my new form because that will also be required for an edit because I don't know which one they want to edit there. And now because I did that at employee, I should have this. And the cool thing is it's Rails convention that knows, okay, if you are using a form for in a file called edit, I know that this user already exists. I know that @employee already has values, right? This user already exists. So I'm actually going to auto-populate every single field with what their information already is. You don't have to do anything else, right? So if I refresh the page, I'm on Michael Scott's edit page, and it auto-populated everything in here. That's like the awesome thing with Rails. It does so much. All I had to do is copy the same form that I'm using here. I didn't do anything special, right? But it knows I'm in an edit view, and so therefore I'm going to auto-populate here. Cool? And then I can choose what I want to do. So if I go back to Kevin, let's go to all employees, and now we'll go back to Kevin. Kevin doesn't have a title, which makes sense because we look here, no title, and when I edit it, there's no title here, so nothing shows up. So I could then put something in here and update them, right? And the cool thing is too, the button, we didn't change anything with the button, but now it says update employee because it recognizes it's in an edit, not a new, for this form 4. The power of Rails. And even though it says new employee right here, that's just my own little thing. Rails is smarter than I, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete it here because I think it's tacky. All right, so now if I hit enter, what should happen? Where is this going to? Where does this edit form go to? And let's look at the form. This edit form is a post, right? It's actually an underscore hidden method, patch, which we don't have to do any of that crazy ass funky stuff with the underscore method, thankfully, because Rails does it for us. And it's changing it from being a post to a patch, and it is patching to /employees/12, right? It's patching to /employees ID. So let's look at our routes and a patch to employees ID. What method is that? It's the update method. And Stephen wrote that as well too, right? We have it as update. And again, if you want this handy little thing, this is Rails routes. It gives you all your available routes at that time. So I can then know it's looking for a method in my employees controller called update. So I'll go into the employee controller and I'll create one. Def update. And this is going to be very much the same, right? I have these params coming through from that whole form, so I can do the same thing with employee params. And I can create an employee instance here equals employee.new. That's a good way to put it, Steven. Employee.new, and I can pass in the return value of this method I created, employee params, which are my strong params. And it will assign it that. I haven't saved anything in my backend, right? Because I'm using new, not update, right? I just created an instance. I haven't done anything with the backend. This is just lives briefly inside this method. Now that I have that, I can then call @employee.save. That should persist it into my backend. And then I can redirect. Again, we're assuming everything goes right. We haven't done any if-else statements if it doesn't actually save. So being very optimistic. We can come back to this later if you guys want. But then I can redirect to, and I think it would make sense to redirect again to the employee path. And now this is, I don't actually need to make this here. I can just make this.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is it by convention to use, instead of doing just .update, which does both of those methods, is it better to do this way, to do the .new then .save, or what would be idealistic?
Nope, that was actually the next point I was going to make, is that this is a two-stepper and we can consolidate down to one. But let's see if this works first. Yeah, that's a good point, Julian. I would say the one-liner works, is something I would prefer. So let's see if this works first. Let's go to employees. Let's go to Moses, and let's edit him and to try and give him that picture. I think I forget which one it was. Let's just do it again. Mose. Paste, and I think he had the same dog. Did I do that in the wrong area? Yeah, I did that as title. So we're gonna go back and edit him again, uh, paste it here, and his title, I just call him Beatman. Cool. So that
So
works. Got a question?
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off again. But so the edit form for the edit action and the form for that action already knows how to under the hood make it like a put request in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because this is like, if you guys remember that crazy ass shit we had to do with Sinatra, with anything that, because the internet's built on sticks and toothpaste and bubblegum, right? And there's only post and get. Realistically, that's the only two HTTP methods. Put and patch and delete aren't really there. We just trick the system because people can't agree on stuff. Um, so before, remember that we had to do that crazy ass underscore method equals this.
Yeah, the hidden field.
Exactly. Rails does that all for us. The form for does that all for us. So if I look and I go to edit, I can see, even though in my form I don't have any of that nonsense in my edit form, it's just the normal thing, right? I can see here it actually has underscore method values patch because it recognizes it's in an edit view, and so therefore we're not doing a post, we're doing a patch. So it builds this underscore method, it builds this authenticity token and everything else for us. So it handles all of that for us. There's a question: did Mose change his ID? I don't think so, but maybe we can look and see. So if I update, oh, this is interesting. It is changing the ID. And the question is why is that? Put patch. Let's go to all employees. So here we're creating one every time we do this. So I have something wrong, right? Let's look at our code. Good catch. So I'm saying employee.new, employee.save. Yes, because I'm sending it to a new instance and I'm saving it here. We don't actually want to go this way. Yeah, we'll just move off the closing circle. We can finish this out. It's fine. So what I'm actually doing this incorrectly. So to Julian's point, I was going to show that you can do this, but this is actually creating a new instance, saving it, therefore creating a new, persisting as a new thing. So we do actually want to explicitly use the update. So my little two-step process will not work. So yeah, let's go back to what Julian had mentioned and say equals employee.update, and don't have this save here. My mistake. I am, for the sake of this, we have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go into the Rails console. Employee.last.delete. .delete. Cool. So now I should have deleted Moses out of here. There we go. All right, so now we have this update. This is the way Julian mentioned. This is actually the correct way. My first step was the wrong way. So what this will do is save. It will do an update to that existing instance that's persistent on the back end and update whatever fields have changed. So let's use this now that we have this here. Let's go through and let's correct like Mose here. So there's no image. We can edit it. We can give him a title of Beatman. We can give him an image URL. Update employee. He does have Beatman. I might have put the wrong picture in. So let's try and edit him again. There we go. Now he has that. If we go back to all employees, oh no. I do not know why everyone I named was Mose here. Oh boy. That's very interesting. Hang on one second. Did we not find him? Yes. Thank you. Oh, I just did employee.update. My gosh. Okay, yes. We have to find him by the params first. So at employee.find, now we can then call update on that employee. That's very interesting that it just did everything updated to him as. we had this here. So what I'm gonna do is do a quick seed to make sure everyone's not Mo's, which I think will delete everyone and then reassign them. Let's run the server again. And let's see what we have in employees. Did we get everyone back? We did. Whew. Okay, so now let's go and create Mo's. Mo's, office, farm, title, beatman, image URL is not that, it is this. Sorry, I see a big thing here. Let's see. When it's a one-to-many, can we definitely add the foreign ID or the corresponding into strong params? But when it's many-to-many, we have to create a new instance from the join class. New instance join class. Sorry, I have a few things. Hey, Derek. You can just. Okay, sorry, Sam. So I'm saying, but when it's many-to-many, we have to create a new instance for the join class and make sure the IDs are saved within the join class. Am I making sense? Is there another way you can ask that, Sam?
So it's like, so it's kind of like if there's like a one-to-many, when it comes to the one thing that owns the other thing, we can just put that ID within the strong params. But when it's a many-to-many, we have to make sure that the join table gets those IDs that are defined to those tables that are connected to the join table.
What I would do, so that's a good question. What he's asking here is, let's say you had a many-to-many, right? And let's say we had song, artist, genre, song, right? So the artist has many songs, song has many artists, and the genre is. Sorry, no, I want to switch this around. An artist has many genres, a genre has many artists, artist has many songs, genre has many songs, right? So what if we were on an artist page and we wanted to create a new, or we're on a genre page and we wanted to link it to a new song. Is that what you're, or sorry, we're on the artist page and we say, click a new song, right? And so we create a new song for that, but we also want to create a new genre as well.
Right.
Is that what you're asking?
So it's like, to say, I wanted to create a new song. No, I'm sorry. I want to create a new artist.
And assign a genre to that artist?
And assign a genre to that artist and also assign a song to that artist. But in order for me to do that, I have to get the genre ID and the artist ID defined within its own params, right?
Yep. And maybe we'll use one you guys have done that I've seen. You had to do this in, can you think of one of the labs that we did this in? Was it the
I can think of,
travel one?
I think it's the travel one. The one that I'm thinking of right now, I really don't want to spoil it. I mean, it's the code challenge is one. That's one thing that pops up in my mind.
Is it the pizza one?
Actually haunts my dream. Yeah, it haunts my dreams, man.
You guys won't be. Yeah, they won't be taking that one anyway, so it's fine. So it was pizza. Was it pizza restaurant and what else?
And restaurant pizza.
And restaurant pizza. Okay. So yeah, really quick tangent, but it's important because you will have the same question tomorrow. So you create a new pizza, right? And you want to then assign it to a restaurant. So when you create so you're on this one form, you're creating a pizza, but you also want to assign that pizza to a particular restaurant. So that means you also have to create a restaurant pizza class on the same thing. Does that make sense to everyone? So what you can do in that instance is you can still have like pizza params, and that would just have ingredients, name, and whatnot, the things that are necessary to create a pizza. And then in your create, you can do like pizza.create and pass in pizza params. But then you can also do, you would also do like restaurant pizza dot create, and then you could assign it. So for like the pizza, you could have, so I would have like pizza equals pizza dot create, right? Pizza params. I can use the pizza params to create my pizza that only allows the stuff for pizza through. I still have params available for me. So then I can do restaurant pizza dot create, and for my pizza, I can pass in the pizza I just created here. And for my
pizza and its ID,
yeah, for my restaurant
ID.
Sorry, small r. I can pass in. I can just access params by itself. So it would be like params, and then there was that pizza hash that it came in through, and I might have sent it through as like a restaurant ID.
IDs or something like that.
Yeah, or IDs, whatever we would call it in the form, right? Yeah. So the strong params only really affecting this thing for pizza, right? Because that's all the stuff to create a pizza, and then for the joiner class, we can just call on the params hash by itself, because we have access to both params and strong params. You always have access to params, and then this strong params is just the method we create here that returns a specific value that calls on params itself, right? So we could just call params directly and get that ID out here manually like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that helps, guys. And then it wasn't too confusing. Won't these be separate controllers? Yeah, but the thing is, so the form, so what he was asking, you might have a form that's one form, right, for a pizza. And when you create the pizza, similar to how our form was, it would have a drop down where you could assign it to a restaurant, right? So I create this pizza, and then I assign it to a restaurant as I create it. All of that is on one form that's part of the pizza creation. So when you create a pizza, you have to assign it to a restaurant, which would also mean you're also creating a restaurant pizza thing. And so therefore, it would only hit the method inside the pizza controller. And you would create, inside the create method, you would create both the pizza and the restaurant pizza all in one go. Okay. All right, back to this stuff. So would you also need to allow parameters for the joiner class in the pizza model?
Sorry, so I'm asking, like, is there something where you could say, you'd have to say in the model, the class for pizza, like accepts, I forget what it is, but it's like accepts parameters for, and it allows you to accept a parameter for another class by something like fields for.
Honestly, that's past a point where I feel comfortable working with that. There might be, I mean, I think this way I'm doing is what you would call like the baseline approach, right? There might be not so much the strong params, but the manual restaurant pizza creation that will get it done, right? And I think that's the most simple aspect of it. I would encourage you guys maybe to go that route instead of any more complicated stuff to add in, like accepts or mess with that, because to me, I think the biggest option is, can we get this working? Can we get it right first? And then we can always go through and tighten stuff up.
Right.
Yeah. So I
just wanted to make sure it wasn't like a necessary step.
No. I would say the baseline necessary thing I would look for is what I just showed you here. If you have to create that joiner at the same time, just manually reach out and grab those values if you need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Good questions, guys. All right. So we left off I think we're on the update. So we did the dot find, and now we can do the update, and then we can redirect to @employee. I got to change here. Cool. Yeah, so we're using the param. So let's try this. Let's go to new. No, we want to go to, /new. We'll create Moz, farm, beatman. Dang it. Okay, well that was good. I actually put the wrong picture again. I don't know why I keep messing up with that picture. It's kind of working out though. So now I can edit it and see if that works. So I can change this, paste this here, edit employee. Cool. So that worked, and now we only have the one Mo's, which is what we want. Nice. Okay, so we're good with the editing now too, right? That's speaking of pizza, I'm gonna make some pizza tonight, so I had a recipe there. Pizza and pickle shop. That's what I'm gonna open up. So let's go back now and see. So we have this. We have create. We have edit. We have the thing we can only select one dog from all the existing dogs, and then we have this thing that says no one at Dunder Mifflin can have the same alias and or job title. So what does this sound like? We'll need to do validations, exactly. Validations. And validations is something maybe you guys haven't had a ton of practice, but at least what will be asked on the code challenge, they're relatively straightforward validations. I'm just going to start off with Rails validations. It's a great place to go. And I have this thing, if I look at the requirements, it says like no one can have the same thing, same alias, and they cannot have the same job title. So to me that says, okay, that seems like a uniqueness thing, right? And it might not have used that word, but uniqueness is what deals with like the sameness here. There's a validation called uniqueness, and this is a way to do it. It's pretty simple. I'll just copy and paste. This is email, but we have, if we go back to the code, you put the validations in the model. So for an employee, I just paste it below, and it's not email we care about, it's alias, right? And I think you can just list them side by side. I'm gonna check. If they're the same thing, I think we can just put them uniqueness, multiple unique validations. Let's see what we get. Validates uniqueness of. This is like multiple columns. This is probably a very. Let's see if it's in the regular documentation. But I'm pretty sure you don't have to like list uniqueness here, uniqueness there. Here we go. Validates each. I don't think we want that. Let's do one more Google search before we just try ourselves. Rails validations for multiple attributes. Here we go. It looks like what we want. They're just saying validates value 1, value 2, value 3. So we can list them all and then put any stipulations after. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So we can say uniqueness validates alias, uniqueness, yep. And then we would want job title, title, right? Title. So let's see what happens here. So if we try to create one that already exists, let's see, Toby, I have a syntax error, I need a comma. Boom. Thank you, Rails. And I have, he is the worst. So let's go back to all employees, let's create one and try to create like this imposter Toby2. The worst. If I create this, what happens? Well, now we hit this error, right? Because it's saying no route matches this, how we have it currently set up. And this might seem weird, but it doesn't know, because the employee doesn't have an ID, because it actually never got created. So I think this is our validations are working. But let's make that so it's a little more noticeable. So if we go into our model, or our controller, we have this this create, right? And we can call, so we've created this, right? Create here. But we can call a question like, is it valid? So we can ask a question like, if employee, right? This is the name of my variable I created the line above, and we can call .valid question mark. And if it was allowed to be created, it should be true. If it wasn't allowed to be created because of validations, it should be false. So if it's true, then we can do this thing. Else, if it's not true, then we can, how about we redirect to the new employee path. And then we can even have errors, right? If it's not true, we can even do our binding, let's just put a binding dot. Let's do a by bug here. That gets hit if it's not true. So we should hit this by bug if we try and create someone with the same name as Toby. So let's go to, and we see we didn't create another Toby2. So let's create a new employee and call him Toby2 again. The worst. Right? And now we stopped, which is telling me that this employee.valid was probably false, right? We hit our by bug. And if I click here, we're in our by bug now, and I can look around at this, and I can see, all right, what is, I had this employee variable that I defined right on line 20. Employee, okay, it was an instance, it was created, but you notice its ID is nil. It was never persisted in the back end, right? It was just basically the employee got new method was run first, but they never did was never able to say employee.save as part of this two-part create, because the validations caught that, right? So if I ask like employee.valid, it's probably false, and indeed it is false here. So we hit this thing here, and I can look at, okay, what are the employee.errors, and I get this whole thing. And if I want to, like, on errors, I can call it .full messages. It's a key. There's messages, and then there's full messages, and it says alias has already been taken. That's pretty cool. That's our error hitting us exactly, right? Or I mean, that's the validation hitting exactly where we want it to, and providing a very friendly error. So I can set flash here, right? Flash is the thing available, and I can create a key called errors. It's that hash available for you all the time that allows you to persist from one route to the other of a limited routing, right? So from one URL to the next for one time only, it will carry over hash. So I can kind of keep some state. It's pretty nice with that. And I can set this equal to employee.errors.full messages, right? And so now I have that, and that means that this will be carried over whenever it redirects to new employee. It will carry this flash error. So in my new, and you don't have to do this for the code challenge, this is extra, this is kind of like the bonus, but I do want to walk you guys through it. I can put something here that says a conditional, right? If flash errors, so if there is a key called flash errors, I know that we hit this route having already failed our create, at least the once before. So if that is true, then we can flash errors dot each do error, and I can just put a P and list error out, I think. Let's see. So let's create employees. I'm in that binding.pry still, so or the by bug, let's continue. And I don't have the binding.pry, I don't have the by bug in there anymore, do I? Let's see. No, I took it out. Okay, let's try this. So create new employee, Toby, and let's actually have them have the same, Toby, that sounds pretty good. They can't have the same title either. And I think his title is HR manager. We'll see. Well, let's look. Toby's title is HR representative. Capital HRR. Okay. So create new one. I'm going to call him Toby again. He's an imposter. He's the worst. Office title HR representative. No image, whatever. Create it. Boom. We get redirected back. Flash errors gets populated, right? This error key in the flash hash gets created for a one-time transition over, right? And I set it equal to employee.errors.full messages. And so that means when we redirect back to the new employee path, we hit this again, which renders our form, and this if flash error is now true. And because this is true, this portion runs, which iterates over each error and just puts it in a P statement. And we get alias has already been taken, title has already been taken, because we made two things the same. Oh, I'm sorry, we have a line of questions.
Is this being?
Oh yeah, what's up, Julian?
Is this being recorded?
Yes. Yeah, it is being recorded. It says we will have to add at to our variable to redirect to new. Will we have to add at to our variable to redirect to new? Shouldn't we do new and save valid? Nice. Okay, let's answer a few of those. So the first thing was in the controller, employees controller. Here, was that the question? Steven?
On line 20, I was just wondering if it had to be at employee instead of just employee in order to render the new view again.
Oh, no, because we redirect to employees path. We're actually doing a new URL, which runs the new method here, which then means we have at employee created.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're not rendering, we're redirecting, so we're actually doing a whole new GET request. But yeah, good question. And then Ruben's had a question is, shouldn't we do .new and save if valid? So you're saying .new, .save. Yeah, you could do it that way too. I mean, honestly, I was going to mention this too. This is, you can do, make this .new and then ask if it's valid. And if it is, then you can do .save. That's fine. You can do it this way too. You can also just do, I'm pretty sure you can just do this. If employee.create, I think you can do this too. Let's see. Let's go to employees, Mo's, farm, Beatman. Don't know which one it is. Maybe you can do that. Oh, because I lost the variable here. Yeah, so I would want to set this and say like employee equals. I could do that. There's two different ways to do it. To short answer, I can do the .new, right, and pass these in, and then call employee.save, and then I say if employee.save because it's either going to be true or false if it does. I could also do the employee.create. You're kind of asking the same questions here. So yeah, both are fine. I can do .new and then I can say .valid, and if .valid, then I can call, say, employee.save. That's fine. I can also just put employee.save here.
I think employee.valid is just more readable. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever you guys feel is best for you, right? So we do new and we ask that question .valid, like is it valid? It is more readable, I agree. And then we can say employee.save. Cool. So let's try it this way. See if it works. I think I have Moses created now. Yeah. Did I get the right picture? I did get the right picture. Nice. So let's try another one. Let's say Kevin Malone, alias, Chili Man, office, Scranton, title. He is accountant. Image, I don't know which one he is. I'm gonna say that one. Ooh, title's already been taken. I wonder if Angela already has that title. So we know that works still. So yeah, it does still work. I wonder if Angela has. But they're more Oscar. What is Oscar? Oh, he's the accountant. What's Angela? She's not on here. Makes sense. Sorry, Kevin, you're not getting put in there. Cool. So we have that, and we have the cool little errors too, right? That pop up that are pretty handy. We can also do the same thing here with our update, right? Because I don't want to try and change someone. Yeah, nice, Sam. I don't want to try and change, like, let's say Michael Scott to be the accountant. Now we do have two accountants, and we've kind of violated our validations, right? But because we only called this on. I mean, it wouldn't allow us to, but we probably want this error system to happen as well to know that we didn't update. So here I can say .find at employee .update here, and then I can do the same thing. If at employee, I think I just call it if at employee .update. Then I can redirect else. And if not, then I can do this. And instead of here, I can do edit employee path. And I would have to pass in the at employee. Put the F here. And this is at employee as well, right? .errors, .full messages. So that should work. Let's try that out. But then I have to go into my form, into my edit form, right? So if we look at the new, we have this. So I'm going to copy and paste that in here as well. Cool. I didn't mention this dog.all. Probably a good chance to pull this out so we're not reaching to the ingredients and just call this dogs. Right? This is an edit form, so that means if I go into the dogs controller, into the employee controller, when I go into my edit, I also have an at dogs. Then I just set to dogs.all, dog.all. Same thing in my new. Not the biggest sin in the world if you forget to do something like that. It's just nice to help keep everything organized. So I have my new set with, this has dogs.all, but now I have at dogs I can call for my controller. Because that seems like something the waiter can at least get. Same thing for my edit. I have dogs now too. So cool. So if we go back to our employees controller, we have this update. Let's see if this works. So let's try and edit. Let's try and edit Daryl and make him the worst. Well, I like Daryl. Let's just try and make him an accountant. So we go to edit employee and we change this to accountant. And we update. And now we get that cool little message, alias has already been taken. Okay, so we'll update to him senior warehouse manager. He was on the accountant path, but we didn't have any room, so we updated him to senior. This is interesting. Update because none. Because someone else might have none. Big D. I want to make sure. Okay. I do notice that I have, this is very small potatoes, but in my show, I left an extra apostrophe. Cool. I do want to make sure though that if I edit him again, edit employee, and if I don't change that, I'll put a Z here. Okay, we're good. So someone else must have not had an alias before, and because of that, we couldn't resave, right? So if I look through here, there's Big Tuna, Michael Scott, alias Prison Mike, Karen. It was Karen. And then maybe there's another that didn't have an alias, so it's saying, hey, there's already someone with an alias. You're not going to be able to resave. I'm like, you got them in the back end when you seeded, but I'm not going to let you do this again. So, cool. So that's kind of, again, quick overview here, what we just did. That's the update as well, right, with the flash errors. Again, I think the errors, maybe it's kind of like bonus stuff for the code challenge. Did I completely cut all this? I must have. So that's I think everything they asked. There is a piece I wanted to do though. this kind of neat spot saying, make an option to sort the dogs on the index page by the number of employees that belong to them. So this is kind of weird because I want to show you how difficult. It's not difficult, but it's awkward to do this way because we really can't carry state from page to page, right? So what it really wants me to do is go to the dogs page, and
they want you to sort it right from like highest to lowest number of employees for each dog.
Yeah, highest and lowest. It wants the highest number up and the lowest, but it doesn't want them just to show up. It wants me to have a button that I click and it sorts it automatically, and then maybe
you'll make 2 GET requests. That's what I tried to make 2 new routes, and both routes will have a view page of the index sorted from, you know what I'm saying, something like that.
Did you get it to work, Julian?
Almost. I had to name the routes kind of weird, so like, you know, the URL will be like super long. But I can, I guess I can share my screen if y'all want to see what I tried to do.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you share. We'll run through yours, and then let me. How do I stop?
It's not complete, but I'll just show y'all the idea of what I was trying to do, and maybe you guys might understand.
Where's the stop share? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I need to do it right here. My gosh. All right. Okay, you can share your screen.
Okay, cool. So my VS Code looks a little weird, so it might look a little funny in the beginning, guys, but I think you'll adjust to it. Let me see, desktop. Is it desktop? Scroll. Hold on one second. I just actually updated my iOS or Mac OS. I gotta give the permission for Zoom to.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's telling me I gotta quit. So I'm gonna exit out of Zoom. But right. I mean, if y'all don't waiting,
we'll see in a minute.
Okay. Leave meeting.
Yeah, he should be back in a few. Welcome back.
Okay, I'm back. So that was very fast. All right, here we go. Share screen. All right, there we go. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So this is what I did. I don't think it's complete, but basically to implement this type of design pattern, I'm going to start at the routes just to show y'all the idea of like how tricky this is or how it was for me. This is config. I always lose that word. Okay. So I defined 2 new routes. So because I don't know how to actually implement like a feature to just like, you know, click a button and like just sort it on its own. So I would assume you have to make 2 new index pages, one where it shows sort dog employees from highest to lowest. That's the name of the route. And then I named it sort high, and I named the other one sort low, just to distinguish the 2. But to actually get the code to actually work, I didn't get that far. But I just know that this is what you kind of have to do.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. That's great, man.
Then so that means you have to go to the the employee controller. You know, you have to define. I mean, the dog controller. You have to define. I didn't get to that. I think is it the employee controller? Dog controller. You got to define 2 new action.
Yep.
And you go to views, and I was working on the views for it, and then but I don't know how to actually do it. So I'll leave the rest to you.
Okay, no, that's great. That's a great starting point as well. If you want to unshare, and then I can share back. So that's definitely like the mindset you want to be in. Is like, okay, you want this new route, and this is like it's a very tricky thing, and I would say I would have a difficult time my first go around trying to do this, having not like had multiple experiences with Rails through different cohorts, right? Like it's just tricky in some ways of like, how do you make this static page kind of look dynamic, right? And what Julian had touched on is, okay, well, first, let's make this route, right? Let's make this custom route that you click a button and it takes you to this custom route, right? And the thing is, because operationally, we want this button, we want to click it, and we want it to show. Well, first, let's just see how many dogs each of these people have. So let's just, for our sake, go into the dog index, and by the dog's name, so we have each of their names and the link here. Let's also put like a hyphen and like a dog.employees.count. And let's see. So now we have their employees show up, and it's 3, 2. So it's actually looks sorted here. Let's add an employee for Bear. So let's create a new employee. Let's assign Bear. Let's assign 2 to Bear. So let's just say like test. What's that?
I'll say do Stanley, but it's all good.
Yeah, let's do Stanley. Stanley's not on there?
Stanley Hudson. No, he wasn't on there. They called him Papa Bear, I know. Yeah. He was strict, yep, and he was the sales manager, a sales associate, one of those.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think that's mode, right? Stanley's gonna have some good pictures. Do we do like Stanley with the pretzel? That's gotta be that's gotta be one of the top ones.
Do Florida Stanley.
Oh, Florida Stanley. You gotta do Florida Stanley. Oh, Florida Hudson. Oh yeah. Which one? This one or this one? Ooh, I like this one actually. And we had said Bear, was it? Nice.
Yes.
All right, we got Stanley there. Let's do one more employee. Who else do we have on here? I don't think we did Kevin Malone yet. Did someone post in here? Oh, Florida Stanley's who you want on your team. Alias Shieldman. Office Scranton. He can't be an accountant, so I just make him a junior accountant. And we'll assign Bear here as well. Awesome. So now if we go back to all employees and go to all dogs, Bear is at 4, Lady's at 3, Shadow 2, Molly 2, Angel 2. So these aren't in order, right? So let's see, like first let's figure out how do we get these in order? And where would be, like it seems like we want to make a method, right? To order these. And again, this is the data as is. These are the uncooked ingredients, right? They're just giving us as they were created from like a dog.all. Now, if we want to do something else to order them, to sort them, that seems like we're doing some type of data preparation, right? And that's going to be handled by the model. So in dogs, exactly. And what kind of method will this be in a model, Stephen?
A class? Oh.
It will, yeah, a class method, right? Because it's on the dog class. So self dot, we'll just call this self dot sorted. And we can say self dot all dot, and we can use this sort by enumerable, right? That we can pass it a block just like any other one. Each of these are a dog, and we want to sort it by dog.employees, right? Dog.employees.count. So by the number of the employees each dog has. So if I save this, yeah. Now let's see what happens when I save this, right? So I had this self.sorted. If I go back to my controller, my dog's controller, and I have, instead of dog.all, if I call dog.sorted, I should then get these sorted. But the interesting thing is, like Stephen kind of hinted at, it's actually smallest to largest. It's sorted, just not in the way we want, right? And you might ask, well, why is that? And it's because by default, the sort method will put the thing with the least value in front. So the last thing in an array that's been sorted will always have the highest value if you're talking about numbers. So Steven said we could say just call dot reverse on here, which we definitely can do, and it's a completely fine solution that works. Another way to do this is for right here, right? 2, 2, 2, 3, 4. Well, an easy way to do this as well is, okay, we want this as the largest, highest to lowest, right? What's kind of like an artificial way? So if we're sorting by the number of employees each dog has, if I just put a negative sign here, right, and make this number negative, it will still sort, so smallest is first and largest is last, but I've kind of like hacked it a bit, right? Because now, instead of 2, it's -2. Instead of, this is -2, -2, -3, -4, right? That it's going to sort, use as its sorting mechanism. So now, -4 is actually smaller than -2. So -4 will be the smaller thing it puts on top. And -3 is larger than -4, but smaller than -2. And then that will be on top. So it will kind of like hackily sort this as well. So if I refresh, it does that. I like your reaction to all my stars. But pretty cool, right? So there's 2 different ways. You can do the negative sign here, but you could also call dot reverse there if you want. The dot reverse is kind of a little bit more, I guess you would call it computationally costly. I mean, but we're dealing with nothing here, so that doesn't matter. But this is one less kind of method we're calling, because all we're doing is making it negative and then doing it that way. So you'll see it both ways. Cool. So now we have these sorted. But they're sorted by nature. So I don't really want that, right? What if I clicked a button and it gave us that sorted thing? Interesting. Well, let's try that. So first of all, I have sorted. What if I created this method in my controller, my dog's controller, and I call it sort, def sort. And then this is the thing that returns all dogs, and then I could render the index, right? So I can reuse that there. Okay, let's see. So I need to create a custom route since I don't have this, right? So if I want to hit that, I can go to my routes. This is what Julian was doing. And it always helps with custom routes to create them up top so we don't get hit with that ID situation happening with dogs. So I can say get /dogs/sort to, and it's going to be the dogs controller with the sort method. Cool. And so now if I call Rails routes here, oh, I don't want to exit it. I want to click it and exit here, and then call Rails routes. Oh, exit. Sorry. I have that sort one that's added now too. Here it is. Sort dogs sort. I even have a prefix for it. I have a helper, path helper, dog/sort, and it will hit this sort action. Pretty cool. So I have that here. So I now should be able to put a link to, right, in my dog. So let's just look. So if I go to dogs, that's still sorted. I gotta change that in my controller. I just want dog.all normal, right? And now it's not sorted. Now if I go to dog/sort, they are sorted. So it's kind of gotten tricky, but let's get even more tricky with it. So this kind of looks good, but we're at this different URL, which I'm not a huge fan of, right? So what if we do this? What if, well, and let's put a button in the index. So in dogs sort, let's put a button in the index.html and make this a link to, because the sort method is just a get. We made it a get request, right? So we can use a link to, and let's just do br, and say click to sort. I am in the employee spot, so let's change that. br, click to.
Didn't you change it to button to, and then just change the method of the button from? I think the default method for button is post, and you could just change it to get.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I could do that. That's a little bit a way, and it's kind of like me squaring a number and taking the square root to get that number. In a way, right? Like I already have it. So link twos by default are gets. Button twos by default, like Julian mentioned, are posts. So if I want to, I need a GET request, I could just use a link to, right? Rather than doing the button to and then making it a GET request to get to me back to the operation of a link to. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Button twos are for posts, link twos are for gets, but you can change them around and hack them however you want. But I have the default link to I can just use here and say, the only difference is the button to would give me in a nice button format where the link to is going to be an underscore. But I could put this inside of a button HTML tag to kind of get around that. So different ways to tackle it. So we'll say click to sort dogs. And here we want to hit what? We want to hit the dog. What was my
sort path.
Dog underscore sort underscore path. Perfect. Was it dogs? Dogs or dog? Dogs with an S. Yep.
Yeah.
Dogs sort path. Cool. And then I'll just save this. And let's look. Now we have this click to sort dogs. I'm going to do one more BR. Go into their own file. One more BR. And it looks like we sorted it, right? Like we got a little tricky with it. Because it looks like, if you don't look up here, it looks like we just sorted it. But if we click it now, it doesn't really do anything. Okay, that's cool. But again, we're going to get even trickier with this. What if, instead of taking me to this sorts thing here, and rendering index, what if we instead redirected back to dog's path, right? But we need a way to get this sorted up here. What's that thing we do to have this one little area of persistence from
before action?
Some flash, right?
Oh, flash.
We can use our friend flash here. We can just say flash, let's just say sorted, right? And set that equal to true. Again, this is kind of like, this is definitely thinking like playing outside the box in ways. So we can say flash sorted equals true. Okay. If we say flash sorted equals true, now we have that flash more back here after we redirect, right? And now we can say, we can set at dogs, at sorted dogs equal to dog.sort. So we have both of these available to us. Did I say sort? I think I call it sorted, right, in the model. Let's look really quick. Yeah, I called it sorted. So we have both of these available to us now, right? So now if I go in the index, I can say I have dogs.each.do. Well, what I could do actually is, how do I want to go about this? I can say at dogs equals, so I can just do I can do an if statement. Let's do an if statement first and say if flash sorted. So flash sorted will only be there, this key will only be there if we are quickly redirected from this sort, right? And so if that's there, then I can say at dogs equals dog.sorted, else at dogs equals dog.all, right? So let's try that out. Let's see how that goes. So when I click this, if I go to dogs, right, they're not sorted right now because I don't have any flash because it only holds from one to the other. If I click sort dogs, you're quickly going to see slash sort pop up and quickly see it go away. But now the dogs are sorted, and it looks like we haven't left anything. But because we went from here, we created flash, went from here, it holds flash, stays alive long enough for the next method to be called. And now I do have this thing flash sorted that's equal to true, and this is a true statement. So now at dogs equal dogs.sorted, right? Now I have this thing. If I click here, it just kind of does the same thing, right? So let's even take it one more step further because the dogs are sorted. I can't sort them any further, right? Like they can't pull over any further. So this is kind of weird, but let's change this because now I do know in that view here where I say click to sort dogs. Let's make another if statement. If, and these are, I like to make them like this because they're weird to make. I don't know where I typed. They're kind of weird to make in ERB. So I just like to build them out like this first. So if flash, again, sorted, if we had this thing called flash sorted, which we set equal to true, then we want to make this link here. And we want to say click to sort dogs and link to the dog sort path. However, that's if the flash sorted is not true. So I can put an exclamation point. Right? So if this is false, then we know we have not sorted them. So we want this to be there, right? Or if that's too confusing, I'll just switch where I put these at. Different ways to do the same thing. So if flash sorted is true, I know I've already sorted them, right? And if I've already sorted them, I don't want to have something saying click to sort dogs. How about I say click to unsort dogs? And then instead of going to the dog sort path, I just go back to the regular old index page, and there's no flash anymore if I do that, if I redirect. So in theory, this should work, right? If I reflect, no, there's no flash, dogs aren't sorted, click to sort dogs, we hit the flash, now we have this thing called flash sorted, this key called sorted. So this, since we have this thing called, all we really did inside of this sort is create this flash sorted key and redirect back to the index, right back to the dog's path. But now we have this flash sorted. So now instead of dogs equaling all the dogs unordered, we have this dogs equal dogs sorted. And this thing is existing, right? So this holds true. So dogs equals dogs sorted here. And as well in our view of index, this is true. So now this will show up instead of this. So now we'll have this button that says click to unsort, and that will take you to the dog's path, which just basically calls slash dogs again. But because now we call, if we click it, well, now we don't have any flash anymore because it only lives one life. It only lives that small gap between one route and the other. So flash sorted isn't a thing, and now we're back to dogs equaling dogs at all, and then this thing happening here, right? So it kind of looks like we're holding state. It almost looks like if you cover this up, don't look here. It looks like a JavaScript thing, right? It looks like we're just sorting. It doesn't seem like we're doing these fetches, but we are. But it's kind of cool to do it with this way with these GET requests, right?
This is very algorithmic.
Yeah,
it's very algorithmic. Something like that.
Yeah, and like Steven said too, it's a little tricky magic, right? It's like us doing things to pretend we have JavaScript to work with. And then when we get into Mod 3 and you guys are starting to work with JavaScript, then you'll be able to build whole pages without ever leaving one URL called single page applications. And you can do all this stuff and just change what's called the DOM, right? Which is pretty cool. So this is kind of, and I can even, like, I could probably just do that same thing down here and write some JavaScript code in the console and change some stuff up here.
So the JavaScript it's the front end stuff that kind of just, it doesn't really do anything on the back end.
Yeah. JavaScript's not on the back end unless you're using what's called Node.js, which they took like the V8 engine out of Chrome that runs the Chrome JavaScript in Chrome, and they built that into a backend. They like mapped it over C essentially and built it into a backend language. So now you can write backend and front end using JavaScript programming language that you're familiar with, but do both things. So we don't teach full stack. When you hear full stack JS, they're running Node.js on the back end. But it's all of this stuff is still transferable that you learn. Like, so for example, when I graduated last July from this program, and I then took my capstone project and I rebuilt my whole Rails backend using JavaScript, using Node.js. And what takes you guys, as a student, it takes you like 8-9 weeks to get comfortable with Rails and backend languages. Well, once you have that information, that all transfers over pretty easily to different programming languages. So with like the Node.js, instead of active record, you have Sequelize that you can use. That's an ORM, right? And you have like very it's the MVC, model view controller patterns, all of that still holds true. You're just using now JavaScript packages rather than Ruby packages.
So JS has a MVC pattern.
Yeah, well, no, it follows it follows the same MVC pattern here.
Okay.
Conventionally, that pattern itself is basically language agnostic.
Okay.
There's some subtleties, but yeah, within like routing and MVC and whatnot, a lot of that will transfer over to multiple languages, object-oriented programming and so forth. Yep. But yeah, pretty neat that we can do that, right? So it almost looks like we have JavaScript running on the front end, even though it's all Ruby. Cool. How you guys feeling? Any questions at this point? I know we went over a lot. I will post this definitely after this. It takes a little bit for me to upload it, but.
So errors, flash messages, and that might not be necessarily a key part of the challenge. That's probably like extra or bonus or something like that.
Yeah, I would say anything dealing with Flash is probably bonus. Validations will be a key part, but the Flash aspect of it and printing out the errors, I would probably lean towards like that being a bonus.
Okay.
Yeah.
But everything else, I know relationships and all that stuff is going to be.
Yep, all fair game, and you'll see it too.
Okay.
And for Flash too, Flash seems a little mystifying at first, but all Flash is just a hash. And it's the only thing that makes Flash unique and like really usable is that it's a hash that can persist from, it can jump from one to the other of these methods being called, right? And it can only jump from one to here and not continue through. But that's kind of like the special thing about hash or about Flash.
You don't have to save it to a variable, basically.
Yeah, well, and actually, if we didn't have Flash, there would be no way to know from one page or the other to talk for those to kind of like to transfer information over, right?
Okay.
Because when you have just GET requests and POST requests, you're just hitting a server, and all it does is give you the information. It doesn't care what happened before. It doesn't care what happened after, right? It just gives you this stuff. It says, hey, I want this data. Okay, here's the data. It doesn't say, well, where were you before you came here? But with Flash, what it does is say like, okay, I check my Flash first. It tells me a little story about where you were in your life before this, and if there's anything that pertains to this, then I'll do something with it. If not, we'll move on. I'll give you the data, and that I don't care about that Flash anymore, right?
That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, so that's one way to do this little button aspect here, and there's a few others. Even if you went to a different route, that's fine. I mean, we are going to a different route. You can see like it quickly goes away, so it's kind of the same idea. It's that I'm being a little tricky and like then doing a quick redirect to go back through and have it look like we've never even left the page. Cool, guys. Thanks for joining. I know we went over. We'll call this. This can kind of be our closing circle as well. If you guys have any questions about tomorrow, feel free to voice them right now. And if not, basically the outlook tomorrow, we have the code challenge. Let's see what time that is. 10 o'clock, yeah. Code challenge is at 10 o'clock. And then we have a little bit of intro tomorrow, or a little bit of afternoon stuff happening with just talking about like the project and so forth. Cool. All right, guys. I will end this recording here, and then if you have, I would recommend that if this was helpful for you, maybe you watch this. If you watch this again and work through maybe a different lab, if you get stuck, on something, you can come back to this. But I would recommend working through that Traveler one. And if you're really feeling good about stuff, seeing if you can tackle that allergen lab as well.
All right, cool.
Awesome, guys. Well, cool. Thanks for joining, everyone. This was, I think, pretty good. And then
thank you. Appreciate it, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. I think this was definitely some good dialogue we had going forth and some of the questions. So I'm excited for tomorrow. Study up. Make sure you take some breaks and you can rest and you come in tomorrow fresh. And if you have questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Okay.